Welcome back into the last session of the conversion rate optimizations for hotels course. Um, I'm so happy to be here. I hope you're happy to finish this and stop seeing my face for a little bit. But today we're gonna wrap everything together again. So we're gonna give you the tools and the philosophy to be able to use all that you learn in the course and start applying it to your website. So I hope you learned a lot during the last few days, and I hope you take everything you learned and start making experiments. And I would love to for you to send me screenshots or pictures or whatever you have about building this and launching experiments. And I would love to maybe give you a little bit of feedback or whatever it is, so that I feel a little bit more accomplished for doing this. But as we've seen, we did the introduction to what conversion rates are, why and how you need to understand your audience, then enhancing the UX in your website, what makes websites wins, and now we're designing experiments. Finally, we're designing experiments, and there's a big thing about the scientific method in all this process, and not only I think in hospitality, but in technology and product development and everything follows a really scientific method of doing it. So I don't know if you're familiar with the scientific method, but it's basically um, laid out in this visual. So you make an observation, you ask a question, then you can form a hypothesis, make a prediction, do an experiment, analyze the results, etc., etc. You can read, and we're using data-driven exercise here. So we have to follow some structure in order to make this work. And the whole premise of this is based on hypothesis and experiments. And in order to come up with an improvement, even if like a gut improvement, even if you don't externalize it, there's an hypothesis you have in your mind. So let's run through an example. So making observations. Let's say I'm looking at my website and I'm seeing that most of the visitors of the website are getting to the room section and then exit the page. So the page with the most exits is the rooms page. Then I can go and ask myself the question, like, what could be the reason for this? What is happening here? I can start looking at the website and try to come up with ideas on why this is happening, and even asking the people that are maybe a current client or someone that left the web page that left their email. You can ask the question, and then from there you probably gather enough information to be able to form a hypothesis. So maybe you say, I believe that users are not finding the room price easily, so they get confused and frustrated and they exit the page. And you could say that if I show the price breakdown with more emphasis, more people are going to finish their booking. That would be your prediction, a hypothesis prediction. In order to test a prediction, you need to run an experiment. And there's two approaches here that we gonna look at after. But let's start with the first one, which is the most powerful one, in my opinion, which is the A/B test. So in the A/B test, you basically have two alternatives of your website. Usually you change something small. You don't change the whole website. So let's say you start showing the price different than on the previous iteration. So you have the original one and you have the new one. 50% of traffic goes to the original, 50% goes to the new one, and then you get the comparison. So let's say 1,000 people went to the first one, 1,000 people went for the second one, and 20 converted in the second one, and 10 converted in the first one. That's really measurable, and you're getting statistically significant results there. And you can always check statistically significance in Google. Just Google, and you can input the numbers you got, and that will give you if it's truly significant or not. But that's the basis of it. So let's say You make the price more predominant, 50% of the people, well, exactly what I said. And the original version, 10 people converted and 20 people converted on the new version. So was the hypothesis correct? If there is statistical significance, it was, and you should implement the changes. And if not, you can go back, do a new hypothesis, and do the whole cycle again. And even if the changes are, you implement the changes, there are probably still things you can improve there. So you can form a new hypothesis, make a prediction, etc., etc. So yeah, that's like the premise we work from. And the thing about here, you want to be super, super structured with how you do experiments. And here's a little sample we made for a client. And you can see, like, you have the name of the experiment, which might be a little bit cryptic for you if you've never been on the project, but you have the problem you detected, the proposed solution, which is basically the hypothesis, the desired outcome, which is your prediction. And then we have a score that comes out of scoring metrics with the status of the change. And this is, I'm gonna leave a link for this for you to be able to use it. But this is the base. This is what we use on a day-to-day basis to be able to continue improve a website. And then you have the scoring metrics, which is what gives us the score. The score, the higher it is, the most impactful the change should be. And we have a few different things, like above the fold. Is a change above the fold. Above the fold means you don't have to scroll to see it. Then noticeable between 5 seconds if it quickly grabs your attention. Is it about adding or removing or improving an element? Is it based on some kind of psychology, persuasion, tactic? There is what's called high potential pages in Google Analytics. So that's, that could be one that if it's on a high potential page, it's going to give you more score. If the issue was it covering while user testing, revealing other research methods, how easy it is to implement or difficult, and then if it's a follow-up of a previous weighing test. And this will give you a score. As I said, the higher it is, the more attractive and the more probability of impact it has. But also be careful, because the impact can be both positive or negative. And that's the beauty of doing the A/B test. You can probably, depending on how much traffic you have on your website, with some of our clients, we do week-long experiments, so a whole week, and that gives you enough data to say, okay, this is true, this is not true. And yeah, that's a basic definition of an experiment. Once you have that, you will need to prioritize and start taking them one by one. That's why the score is pretty useful. And it's a really good idea to also document the results of each experiment. So if you're looking for more conversions, you should list the experiments you've been doing. Usually the tool you're going to use for that is going to do that for you. We use A/B testing, but it's never too much to document it twice. So now I want to talk a little bit about the type of experiments we can have and how they're executed. I talked a bit about A/B testing, and now I'm going to talk about the other method, which is all like before and after method. So when it comes to building experiments, depending on the amount of traffic your website has and the expertise of your IT department, you would choose one or the other. For me, and mostly for everyone in this little niche of technology, the most optimal is to do the A/B testing, but that doesn't always make sense for every company. If you have 100 people per week in your website, it's going to take 2 months to get statistically significance on any experiment. And that's when you can use the before and after method. So you basically change your website directly Usually a small thing, and then you measure metrics before and after the changes. Um, this is good for major redesigns. This is good for a big change in your main booking flow, and it's going to give you less certainty in the results because there are going to be more factors going into it. Like, for example, if you do this and the experiment lasts like a month, maybe there are some external factors like seasonality and different stuff that could go into it. And then the A/B testing side, you're really, there is no external factors like that because you're running them in parallel. So um, and that's a big advantage. So, and A/B testing is more scientific in that way. It's very good for companies that have a lot of traffic on their website. The results are obviously more accurate. You can discard experiments in 4 or 5 days, and that's the beauty of it. You require much more technical expertise, so there might be changes you need to code and implement on a specific tool, like we use A/B testing, but you're making data-driven decisions. You're moving into the data-driven realm, and I think that both methods obviously help. If you do the before and after method, the thing you have to do is really measure. Like, for example, let's say you're gonna do a change. You get a month of data before and a month of data after, and then you can compare the results. And you need to do that because if not, you're operating from your gut feelings. So that's mostly it. You can go in a rabbit hole and look at the different and look more into this, but that's the basic stuff and the stuff you need to know. And now we're gonna move on to what are the tools or the tech stack we usually use for CRO. Um, we already mentioned a little bit of this in the first session, but here's more detail. First of all, you have Google Analytics. Google Analytics is going to give you everything about your website, your traffic, the pages with the most visit, with the most exit. So it's your command center. You need to have it. It's free. It's really easy to implement. So there's no excuse to have that. Then we have Mixpanel and Amplitude, which are both at the far right. These are a little bit more complicated in the implementation side. You need developers for sure, and you need people to be maintaining it and changing it, especially if you're doing experiments. But what basically happens in these tools, both tools are for the same purpose. But Google Analytics usually shows you like the view of the user. In these tools, you can see exactly what the user does. So if they click on a button, that's going to be saved as an event. If they put a filter, that's going to be saved as an event. And you have more information about what the user does in your page. So you can build a whole booking funnel and see how many people drop down, divided by segments. It overlaps a little bit with Google Analytics. But it is valuable. If you have the budget and you have the people to implement it, it's a valuable tool. Then A/B testing is our experimentation playground. I love this tool, and this is where we put all of the hypotheses to test. So if you want to see if a new headline or different room photos gets more bookings, A/B testing lets you run those A/B tests super smoothly and efficiently, and it gives you all the results you need. And you can basically go and show your boss how much your little change impact your bookings. Then we have Content Square, which is it's a really interesting tool. It lets you see for each section of the website, for example, how much revenue it's bringing. So if you have the search form, that's usually the one that brings the most revenue for hotels. The call to actions do, and even the rooms are the most clicked. But it's a pretty interesting tool. You can see like an X-ray view of your website and try to understand everything. and it's incredibly powerful for identifying user experience issues. A little bit more complicated to implement too, but if you have the team, you can do it. And last but not least, there's Hotjar. Hotjar is a tool that is more qualitative in nature. You can see user recordings, so what they do on your website when they're going. You can see heat maps, so where people click the most. So it's like doing a user interview without the booking it and outreach, and so you can do a lot there. You can also do surveys of how was the booking process, etc. Um, and so this is a stack you need, and this is all the stuff you need, and they become your suit for CRO. They help us understand your visitors, test your ideas, and make data-driven decisions, which is going to turn more of your website visitors into guests. So that's it for this course. Now it's your turn to start a journey. Taking the first step is the most difficult. And as I said on the previous session, it's probably going to take 2 to 3 experiments until you get the hang of it. But send me, if you're doing an experiment, please send it to me on LinkedIn. I want to know all about them. I want to help you if I can. I want to guide you if I can. I hope this has been super useful for you. And yeah, thank you very much if you stay with me until the end. I truly appreciate it. And I hope it was valuable for you. If you, again, need any help, just send me a DM, send me an email, visit us at surf.tech. And yeah, until next time, maybe a new course, maybe a real conversation in an event. Who knows? But reach out. I would love to talk about anything technology, hotels, football, baseball, whatever. And yeah,